So for the past couple weeks, we have been trying to dare to write stories and letters from God to us. And so Pastor Mary and Pastor Brandon and I have each written our own letters, and then we compile them and hope that in some capacity we're somewhat barely touching on what God would actually say to us if God was writing a letter. Some of you may have missed a letter or two. The first week we looked at God's statement that God accepts us, that as we were knit in our mama's womb, God was putting us together with purpose and meaning, and that because of that very essence, God accepts you and me. And last week we read God's love letter, that if God was going to speak into us love, what would God say? And so if you missed it, go onto our website, centralunionchurch.org, and click on sermons and you can watch them. They're short sermons, which I've had no one complain about how short the sermons have been. So get ready for today. Just kidding. We're going to have a good time today. So in the story, what I find in the inspiring part of the story today is this notion that in the greatest moment of need, God provides for God's people. So the context is that the Israelites have left the bondage and slavery of Egypt. Now they're out in the desert. They've walked in faith, have seen God do miracle after miracle, and they get to a place where their bellies are hungry. And they're hungering because they're starving, literally, to death. And they begin to cry out to God, God, don't you see that we're hungry? Can you please come and help us? And God provides in their greatest moment of need, bread from heaven, animals that they could eat. And the beauty of this language is that there was enough for everyone to get their fill. No one had too much and no one had too little. In the midst of that, what God reveals is how deep God's care is for God's people. And so today, as we think about this idea of God's care for God's people, there is no greater thing when you're away from home than getting a care package. Has anyone ever gotten a care package? Care packages are these important parts of our journey. And there's a story of a young lady who left here from Hawaii named Amanda. She was excited to fly the coop of her parents' dominion and spread her wings and soar like an eagle into her adulthood, until she actually left home. She realized quickly that she was homesick. She was missing the engagement with her family, the home-cooked meals, those things that make home home and her grounding place. She had been explaining to her mom how homesick she was and how much she missed her mom, especially. One Saturday morning, she got a knock on her door at her dorm that there was a package waiting for her down at the mailroom. She went down not knowing what it was, and she opened it, and it was a care package from her mom to her. As she began to go through the things inside the package, they were reminders of home, of her grounding place, that she was cared for, that her mom had not forgotten her, but instead was trying to meet her need in that moment. Which leads me to a question. If God was going to send you a care package, what would God put in the care package? Have you ever wondered that? Probably not. But today you will. And the good news is that we have a basis of understanding that we think we might know what God put in the care package. I happen to have it right here. Believe it or not, God loves banker boxes. I don't know if it's on all sides, but they hold a lot of stuff. And so in this box is God's care package to you and to me. And I hope that you'll indulge me as we go through what God packed for us today. Just like Amanda, when she opened her care package, found a letter from her mom, God put a letter in our care package to us. It says, "My child." Isn't that amazing? God uses the internet to send things to us. So this is what God wanted you to hear today as we uncover this care package. Within this box are items to remind you of how much I care for you. It has always been true, and especially today. These thoughts are reminders for you that you never walk alone and that you are always on my mind. Though time and space may give you a sense of being apart from me, never once are you far from me. For I hold you in my heart, in the forefront of my mind. As I prepared your care package, I recalled the story of your life. I've seen you walk through highs and through lows. I've seen you struggle and I've seen you celebrate the successes of life. I have cheered for you, and I've even laughed at some of your logic. In short, I've been there. So enjoy my care package. Breathe in my presence as you delight in each gift. So I think these are all symbols of something much deeper. So for example, in any care package, one of the first things that you have to see is something sweet, right? How many of you like cookies? At the end of worship today, this is our feast, right? These are homemade cookies, at least in my idea of homemade. They're chewy Chips Ahoy, right? How many of you ever grew up in a home where someone made fresh cookies for you to indulge on? How many of you that made you feel loved? How many of it made you happy, right? You see, these cookies have a way of bringing the nostalgia back of our childhood. And this is what God's message is to us in these Chips Ahoys. Life can be sweet. The sweet moments of life can often be a surprise to you. Like that time when you came home and discovered fresh baked cookies made just for you. You wanted to devour the whole batch in one sitting. Yet what you really remember isn't the cookies. It's the heart of one who made them for you. You felt loved and cared for. Throughout your journey, there'll be moments that are sweet, like the day of your wedding or the birth of your child, like the first grown-up job you land or the day of your retirement. These sweet moments of life, savor them. Don't rush them. Enjoy them. So remember, savor the sweet moments of life when they happen. I like this one, yeah? Anyone need to try one? Make sure they're not poisoned? Yeah? They're very hard to open. My mother, God is very good at packaging. Ready? One more. Nice catch. In fact, there's people way back there. Nice! Oh, Ruth, you get one too. Will you pass that to Ruth? I don't want to. So, maybe I'm the only one. When I was younger, I made decisions and then thought about them later. For example, I went skiing and didn't think about I could get hurt doing tricks that teenagers do and dislocate my shoulder, or all the other scars that are on my body because I would try something and then afterwards go, what was I thinking? Anyone else do that? Well, you see, God knows about you and me and people like us. And one of the things that God's care package, of course, would have is a first aid kit, right? Because the first aid kit is vital for us because the reality of life is that we're going to get scratched up and bruised as long as we keep journeying along. And so this is what God wants to say to you about this first aid kit. Be prepared. Life happens in the most unexpected of ways. No one lives this life without a few scrapes and bruises. Some of these are self-inflicted through our own choices, and some are inflicted on you by other people's choices. Undoubtedly, time will heal these wounds, but when you experience them, be sure to take good care of them. Ointment for your cuts, ice packs for your bruises, Band-Aids for the blisters, and tweezers for the splinters. So remember, be prepared that life won't always be easy, but healing will come. Anybody need a Band-Aid? We can throw those, no? All right, so what else do we have in the care package? Okay, so maybe I was the only one that had to learn how to do laundry the hard way. Anyone ever run out of clean clothing at some point in life? I feel very exposed right now that I'm the only one raising my hand. Okay, thank you. Apparently people in the Navy and David are the only two groups that do that. So God's care package, of course, needs some good old-fashioned Tide, right? Tide is this beautiful gift when you realize that it cleans clothing and makes them smell delicious, right? But why would God include Tide in our care package? Well, this is what it says. I read a quote recently from writer Hugh Prather. Just when I think I have learned the way to live, life changed. Read it again. Just when I think I've learned the way to live, life changed. Change is your steady companion along this journey. There'll be times when you feel like you're standing on top of the world. Enjoy that moment. There'll be other times where you feel stuck in the muck of life. Enjoy that moment too. For the tides of life, the first two services did not get it. Will both bring blessings and leave you befuddled. Learning to live well in this life is to learn that we live on the rise and fall of tides that are beyond our control. Therefore, embrace the moment you're in, learn its lessons, and always remember that the tide will always be a-changing. So remember, no tide is permanent. The tides of life are always changing. Anybody need a cup? No. There's a gathering place outside of the Church of the Holy Nativity in Bethlehem, and it's a really original name. As you come out of the little door that you have to duck through, and you look across the courtyard of the Nativity, what you see is a symbol that's green in a circle. And it's a cafe. It's called Stars and Bucks. We call it in Hawaii Starbucks. Have you ever heard of that place? So in Palestine, they can't use Starbucks, so they got creative and call it Stars and Bucks. Well, I found a gift card this week to actual Starbucks, because Stars and Bucks doesn't work at Starbucks. But how many of you have ever, maybe perhaps, gone to a Starbucks before? A cafe of any sort or variety. Well, this gift card is a part of the care package, and here's what it says. Life is never meant to be a solo act. Therefore, here's a gift card to help you get grounded in your community. I like you. Coffee isn't the goal, but rather a means to meet the goal. We're invited to do life together. It is through sitting around tables, hanging out in each other's living rooms, catching up on the phone, that you realize that you never walk alone and that we do life together. Just as coffee grants us a jolt, so too does a local cafe. It is there where we deepen our relationships and begin new ones. With a piping hot cup of coffee or tea, we leisurely sip away, talking about the latest issues of politics, sports, faith, weather, and family. So remember, life was never meant to be a solo act. Build deep relationships and enjoy the ride with others. Anyone want? No. It would be unfair. And the last thing in God's care package for you is symbolized in a magazine. This one just happens to be an invitation to go to Florida and experience the wonder of that state. But any travel magazine would work. It was the only one Long's had. But it's not really about the magazine, is it? In God's care package, this is what God would say. Dream and explore. While you may never actually get to go to far-off places, the heart of an explorer sees that wonder dots the very place that you are today. It dots the people that you will encounter, the creation that's surrounding you, the God winks when you show up and realize that you're in the presence of the divine. Explore the cultures and the foods around you. Go and explore the off-beaten paths and the stories of others. Did you know that everyone has an amazing story? Stories of overcoming, stories of love and heartbreak, stories of hopes and dreams. And dream about days far off from now. Dream about trips with loved ones. Dream about impacting the community with your friends. And dream about quiet nights at home with your family. Dream about a deepening faith, and maybe even dream about future jobs. Dream about your family coming home for the holidays and grandchildren yet to be. Dream big, explore broadly, and remember, there is more wonder in this world than you will ever be able to discover. You see, if God had a care package for us, I think this is just a few of the many things that God would put into it. You see, each day is a gift in itself, and you've never walked alone. Each day, day in and day out, the Spirit of God is with you. It whispers to you if you're quiet enough to hear it. It guides you in this journey of life, and sometimes it surprises you. And the reality of all of our lives is that none of them are lived perfectly or easily. But it's in that space that God works God's miracles. And so today, as our worship team comes to lead us in worship again, I'm going to invite you to take a moment of silence to just say a simple prayer. God, please care. God, please care. And at the right time, they'll begin to lead us once more. And so would you pray with me?